I've been going back to play a bit of Battlefield 1 recently, and I have to say I'm not disappointed at all. With so many FPS games, I tend to get this overwhelming sense of nostalgia, and I go back only to find that things have moved on, or the game that I once loved so much doesn't really hold up well at all. This is the case for Battlefield Bad Company 2, or even some of the older Call of Duty games. Every time I go back to play them, whether it's to get some content for a video or just see what the games were like, they kind of disappoint me just a little bit. They don't quite hold up. Back in the day they were superb, but over time they aged. Now Battlefield 1 doesn't quite fall into that category yet, as it's not even that old. It came out in 2016, so I'd say 4 years isn't really long enough to consider it one of those older games. I think you really need to be pushing the 10-year mark before that kind of nostalgia trip comes into play. What I can say though is that it does show that DICE are capable of producing a game that holds up over a shorter amount of time, and whilst it does have some ways to go before I can really speak about it in the same way as I do with Battlefield 3, it is giving all the right signals at this early stage. It looks more impressive than the most recent Battlefield game, Battlefield 5, that's for sure. There are some things in the game that just impress me right from the off, and if they were to release a Battlefield 1 style game next time round, I really think most people would get on board with that. The animations in the game are what strike me at first. Now I'm not talking about the animations where you get in and out of tanks or that kind of argument that people have had with Battlefield 5. I'm talking about the animations that are all around you. Weapon animations, vehicle animations, the little things that just seamlessly happen all around you when playing. I've put together a few slow motion clips of my favourite weapon animations in the game just to show you how good they still look. Cinematic game modes meant that you could almost push through the enemy lines and feel as if you're in the movies, with epic explosions, voice lines and gritty visuals, pushing through the trenches on Passchendaele or marvelling at the vistas on Empire's Edge. From a casual point of view, Battlefield 1 was very entertaining. Jack Frags has recently done a series taking a look at all the Battlefield games from Bad Company 2, I think it was, all the way through to what we've got today. Now that series has been quite entertaining to watch, especially as someone who got into the franchise with Bad Company 2 and has played all those games through, and what he says is pretty much spot on. A few things I don't agree with, a few things kind of made some controversy that was reflected in the comments, but overall he's right about a lot of stuff. Battlefield 1 was one of those games that sold incredibly well. It got people into something that they didn't think they wanted, a World War I game. We've never seen that before. And that can be seen with the incredible trailer views and unique players in Battlefield 1. The trailer amassed over 25 million views within the first 5 days of its release, and this was at a time when the new Infinite Warfare trailer received over 1 million downvotes. It was a time when DICE almost had the upper hand on the Call of Duty franchise and needed to capitalise on the situation, but we all know what happened next. Apparently this was also a game that DICE wanted to make for the best part of 5 years, but were unable to due to their contract with EA. They needed to develop Battlefield Hardline and Star Wars Battlefront before starting on Battlefield 1. Whether this is true or not doesn't really matter, as I don't have the specifics. I think though what it does say is that DICE have many projects and a really tight schedule, so the fact they managed to squeeze so much content into Battlefield 1 is a real success just on its own. I'm not talking about content in terms of big DLC packages, although we did get quite a few with BF1. It's the little things. Everywhere you look in Battlefield 1, there's a detail, there's an animation, there's something just to make that game and that experience work better for you when you're playing it. Battlefield 1 did a lot of things right, we all know that. You can see it with the amount of copies they sold and the players that are still going back to play it. It didn't, however, tick all the boxes for many Battlefield 4 fans, including myself. But when has any Battlefield game been perfect for everyone? BF1 can certainly be viewed as a success though. I just think they went for an angle, they fulfilled exactly what they promised, and people got what they wanted out of a World War I Battlefield game. That all being said, Battlefield 1 did start losing players fairly quickly after the first 6 months of it releasing, and it didn't have the core communities that Battlefield 3 and 4 had. BF5 has gone even further really, showcasing that a bad game alongside kind of a suicidal marketing campaign and all of the other stuff you know about, we've been through this a million times, it's going to see players leave the franchise and go over to something else. BF1 though didn't really do anything wrong, so why did so many people leave? I think it might be down to the fact that all the pretty stuff that you see in the game only goes so far. Yes, it's great to have a game that looks so good, and with the animations being on a different level, and with all of the maps looking so fantastic, you've always got something to look forward to when you play. But at some point, that stuff becomes normal to you, and it's the depth of gameplay that keeps you playing, it's what keeps you hooked. BF1 missed a lot of only in Battlefield moments and sandbox elements. This meant that you could play and master weapons, of course you could do all that stuff, but the options you had were starting to get a bit limiting after 100 hours of playing, or at least that's the way I felt. The vehicles didn't do a whole lot for me either, they were fun, but nothing on the air, land and sea gameplay we got in previous Battlefields like Battlefield 4. Limited by the time period, sure, but there were many other things that dampened the whole experience for me. That is probably why I went back to BF4 after a little bit of time with BF1, along with a load of other players. Many creators left the franchise when BF1 released. I think Matimio and Levelcat went to do other things, and maybe X Factor and a few of the other of those squad up players who were with Jack for all that time with those really interesting BF4 videos, and you can see with BF5 even more have jumped ship. That being said, many creators did start their channels with Battlefield 1, so it's almost that point in time where the franchise went through a fork in the road and it went one way, where Battlefield 3 and 4 maybe would have been the other way. All in all, I will say that BF1 is a great game, and if the next Battlefield game is on the same level, I will be happy. I just think that the time period and a few missing elements of the game didn't really allow me to get the most out of it, and I've only really started to appreciate the game kind of a year or two after I stopped playing it, and Battlefield 5 coming out has really shown me how good we had it with BF1. It does divide opinion, Battlefield 1, that's for sure, but it is popular, and in its own right, it's definitely a successful game. So I hope you've enjoyed this video with some gameplay in the background of some HUDless animations, some slowed down stuff. I recorded it in 120 FPS to slow it down, make it look really smooth and nice. I think it looks quite good. It's just for me really to look at that stuff. I like Battlefield games when they're recorded in high quality and slowed down. I just think they look fantastic. But if you did enjoy, leave a like down below. If not, feel free to leave a dislike and let me know what you think of Battlefield 1 and the animations in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.